Pat, it is the first There's Nostalgia Like Nostalgia of 2025, and we are going all the way back to the year 2022.
Woo! I was so
Because,
different back then.
well, Pat, I like movies, you like movies, and we're here to talk about a movie called I Like Movies
How
from
about that?
Chandler Levack, which came out again about 3 years ago.
Yep.
And I I think it came through town. I think it came to the music box, and it was totally not on my radar or anything.
Yeah.
And I really wish it had been because I got a chance to watch it this past week, and I knew you watched it recently. And this is again one of my top films now. Like it, I love this movie. It hits in all the right spots. I think more
Yeah.
people need to see it. More people need to
Yeah.
talk about it, and we're going to talk about
Absolutely.
it today. But
Mhm.
first, how you doing, Pat?
I'm doing fine. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
In middle of February, 6 weeks in. That's not too bad.
Yeah,
So yeah, yeah,
finally getting
yeah.
a winter snowstorm. It's
Whoopee.
oh,
The
but
nice thing about a winter snowstorm now, for those of you who are watching not from Chicago, is that eventually it'll be in the 40s again in about a week and a half, and it'll all be gone. You just have to endure the 6 weeks from January 1st through Valentine's Day, and then the rest is cake. Then it's just cold until May.
yeah, nice and cheery. Which brings us to the subject of this movie.
Yeah,
This
it's cold all the time in Canada. No, I don't know.
It is, well, and it is a Canadian film. It is a
Yes,
very Canadian movie.
very
Um,
Canadian.
I wasn't quite prepared for it. Although I don't think they have any references to Tim Hortons in this one, which kind of surprised me. But
or
um,
SCTV or whatever. Oh, they did
but
Second City in Toronto. They did reference that.
and it's weird because they do, yeah. There's a lot of talk of Saturday Night Live in this movie because what is this movie about? It's about two high school teenage boys who are named Lawrence and Matt, and
Yeah,
they're best friends. They love movies. They have dreams of like doing something in the movies. Lawrence is an
right.
aspiring filmmaker. Matt kind of helps him make these movies. They have what's called Rejects Night, which is Saturday night. They get together at one of their houses and they watch SNL. They have this great bit where this was
I love it.
brilliant. This is one of the many
Yeah.
things I love about it, where they do the camera setup thing and they pretend that they are doing their cast intros on SNL. Like pretend you're on the subway eating a hot dog and are taken by surprise. Pretend you're looking at the Statue of Liberty and are taken by surprise.
I love that too so much. If anybody, gets into the whole culture of SNL in its 50th anniversary this year, they always, think about what their picture would be like if they were a cast member. So I thought that was really, really sweet and interesting.
And I thought that the 2 minutes of total time they devoted to that in this movie was better than the entirety of Saturday Night, which came out last year.
Oh, stop. I love that movie.
Yikes. But anyway, no,
it's
but
it's like a personal nostalgia thing.
I
Plus
yeah,
the symbolism of new show business versus old show business. Well, we're not talking about Saturday Night here.
no, but we are talking about SNL. And
Yes.
what fascinated me about this movie is it takes place in the early 2000s, specifically 2002, and they
Yep.
don't do it through title cards. Movie buffs
Right.
will figure out the timeline based on the movies they're talking about, right? Go ahead.
Well, they also show a close up of his letter and the dates on there.
Oh, I missed that. Well,
Yeah.
I mean
Yeah.
that's towards the end of the movie.
Yeah. Well, but still, I could have been anything from 98 through. I knew the range, but I wasn't sure specifics. So
It was because they're talking about how Punch Drunk Love was getting ready to come out
there you
on
go. There
DVD.
you go. Yeah.
Plus,
Yeah.
you look at the video store, the shelves in the video store they work at called Sequels, and it's full of DVDs and specific. It's just great where you're invited in to figure out the time you're in by really
Right.
analyzing the fine details of the set
Right.
design.
And
And
not
that's
just
not to
reading
say
the letter like I did.
right. Well, but it's not something that's a distraction where it's like, well, there's nothing going on in the movie, so I'll just look what's going on in the background. There's so much packed into this film, which it's
Brilliant.
ostensibly about these two best friends, but what it really is about is their friendship kind of coming apart because
Right.
Lawrence is a very hard person to like. As a character, he's got severe kind of emotional problems. He's selfish, he's petty, he's obsessed with movies and doesn't quite care for people. He's got
Right.
tumultuous relationship with his mother, but he does get a job at this video store called Sequels because he has this idea that he's going to save up all this money to get into the Tisch school at NYU to study film, after his senior year is over. And he realizes that he's not really going to be able to save that much working at a knockoff of Blockbuster.
When he
But
gets his first paycheck, that's quite amusing.
yep, and
As they take
quite
all the taxes
real.
and such
Yeah.
out.
But I mean, he gets a job at this video store and he kind of develops a crush on his manager, and their kind of relationship blossoms and evolves and changes. What is fascinating to me about this movie is it feels at once like a movie that came out in the wake of Clerks, the whole video store culture and everything,
Yep.
plus the independent movie vibe, but also it feels like a movie about the people who would have watched Clerks and been influenced by it almost in the direct wake of that movie. We're
Yeah.
talking late 90s, early 2000s.
Good point.
And it's got all the heart
Mm.
and the comedy that you would hope from a type of movie like this, but it just I can't think of anything like it. Especially this character is so on several levels unlikable that he's almost repellent, not only to the people around him but also to the audience. But if you stick with the movie, you really kind of grow to love him and root for him and kind of hope for the best.
Did you happen to see the movie Hard Truce?
No.
It was the Mike Lee movie from last year. It did festival, but didn't really do a hard theatrical run, no pun intended. But anyway, there's a similar character in that, a very repellent character. But as the movie goes on, you understand the depth of their pain, if you want to call it that, and depression. Because essentially, because of an incident, which I won't do spoiler, there is a pain to this teenage boy. He's also pudgy and not attractive, and they always say depression becomes anger and all that stuff. And I was really digging how in depth they got to his character and how you completely understood his journey because of it. Definitely.
Yeah, and I think the cast is great all around, but the characters are so strong because at a certain point, his kind of beleaguered mother, who's put up with a lot in this movie, she has, they have a reckoning. And
Yeah.
at one point, I'll
Harsh.
I'll just say that because it's a great line. He gets rejected from film school, from the one he wants to go to, and he's crying and very upset, but something else has just happened that he needs to address sort of as an adult because he screws up big time and he gets the letter and he's breaking down.
Yeah.
And his mother has to help him clean up this mess. And she says, "My heart is breaking for you, but I need you to get in the car."
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Well, I mean, again, going back to depth of character, everybody in Lawrence's Satellite got a moment. And the mother was just, I mean, maybe she has a dozen lines in the whole movie, but just the way they established her. There's the one scene where she's watching SNL with Matt and he forces her out of the room because this is their time, but you just feel for her because she wants to stay and watch the television program with them, but decides to go to her room because that's what moms do for their boys, whatever. It's crazy.
the actress's name, she plays Terry. Her name is Krista Bridges. And
Yeah.
along with the actress who plays Lawrence's manager, Alana, her name is Romina D'Ugo.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm pronouncing that
No,
correctly.
I think you got it.
But those are two outstanding, like standout performances. You talk about, well-drawn, female characters who are complex and not necessarily like the one-dimensional kind of girl boss characters. I wish every not regardless of gender, I wish every character in every movie was as richly drawn as these two are, especially Alana, who you think is just the trying too hard. I'm in my late 20s trying to relate to people who are younger than me, but I'm also running a video store and I have no direction. You don't really think she's got a lot going on, and she doesn't. And it's through interacting with Lawrence that she decides, I got to kind of do something with my life, just as he's trying to figure out what am I going to do with my life. And there are several scenes of different tenors. Some are comedic, some are very angry, some are just heartbreaking. That throughout this, I don't know if this movie is even 90 minutes long. It's something like that.
Yeah.
But you get the full range of interactions and just a depth that you don't even get in Clerks. Different types of movies, but definitely a spiritual successor.
Well, also, there's a big reveal with her that is so poignant and so beautifully done. The way that the director set up the stage of it, I was like, wow, you rarely see that in independent films where people are using their head to create an atmosphere that is perfectly set up and suited to what the character is expressing. And I just cannot compliment that enough.
Well, it's also, this goes back to what I was kind of saying about the weird Kevin Smith of it all, where it's a movie kind of aimed at people who are fans of his and also talks about people who might have been influenced by him. Without giving too much away, there is a Harvey Weinstein-esque kind of D plot to this movie.
Right.
And it's, this movie came out, 3 years ago, so it's kind of post Me Too, but still relevant enough to, carry a lot of weight, right? But it's also getting into those character details in a way that if this movie had come out, 20 years ago, not a lot of that was known in kind of the mainstream.
Right.
So you're almost like using that future knowledge to tell a very personal story of something that happened back then. And it's so intense and sad that you just, it's a marvel. I mean, I mentioned the strong female characters, which is something it's a phrase I hate because I find, one second, but before, I get too far down this rabbit hole, Chandler Levack she's a female filmmaker. She wrote and directed.
That's a point I wanted to make. Some people would think that's a male name.
Yeah, I did too, until I looked her up. And I'm like, wow,
that's why I wanted to make sure that was emphasized.
But what I wanted to say is, it's kind of not surprising that she would be able to have that insight and that care to draw these, wonderful female characters, as sort of supporting characters around the orbit of this teenage boys movie, but also that she gets into the head and the soul of a struggling, outcast teenage boy. And there's at no point where I'm thinking, that's not right or that's inauthentic. I'm thinking, oh my God, how did you know? Because I'll confess, I have a lot of similarities to a young Lawrence when I was a kid.
When the Reject Night came up, I'm like, yeah, that's me, 15, watching Saturday Night Live. But that's a great point. The gender switch, it's autobiographical, apparently, as I read in the background. But the gender switch gives her the freedom to, not only create Lawrence in her image, yet just male, and observing other males, I'm sure, of her era and the kind of rejected males of her era. But then having the power to take these female characters and completely, create their space and give them full characterization. And the performers stepped up to that plate and the zeitgeist between a great story, a great director, and a great performers resulted in this brilliant film.
Down to the supporting characters. You messaged me
before
we got on about how you loved the high school teacher. He's got, I think he's got 3 scenes in the whole movie, maybe amounting to a minute runtime or 3 minutes runtime, for the whole thing. And he's great too. He reminded me almost of Dennis Hopper's character in My Science Project. I don't know if you remember that. His big line from that movie was he was talking to the kind of the reject kids who are in danger of failings, and he said, "Unless your final project is Dino Supreme, you both get D's."
Well, I also believe that he was the type of person, especially in the scene where Lawrence stands up and defends his film, he was the type of person, the teacher was recognize potential, right? And wanted
Yeah.
to encourage potential. That's why Lawrence and Matt got the assignment for the year-end film, which in a switch, Lawrence or Matt's new girlfriend picked up the filming aspect of it and made for an excellent scene at the end. But um, just the fact that that's why I liked him so much, because even though it was a small role, 3 scenes, maybe a half dozen lines, he felt like a real teacher who saw some potential and wanted to keep exploiting it to get the best product he could for that year-end film. So anyway, I really enjoyed that.
Well, but even taking that a bit further is, a lot of these kind of high school coming of age movies, there is the cool teacher who tries to relate to the misfit. And that sort of happens here, but I like the
Yeah,
fact that this teacher only takes that sympathy so far.
yeah,
And when it's clear that Lawrence is not going to get his act together and not, help out or participate in any constructive way, he kind of transfers that positive energy over to Matt and his, would-be girlfriend, Lauren P. I love that her name is Lauren P, which kind of implies that there's like a whole bunch of Laurens in this school,
right,
um, but
right,
encourages her as sort of a budding filmmaker to do her best. And he finds in her a receptive student that he can
right.
actually do something with. And that's not a major, again, it's not a major plot of the movie. There aren't any big heartfelt speeches where she's like, "Oh, thank you. You really turned my life around." You
Right,
just kind
right,
of get
right.
that feeling
Yeah.
based on the few scenes they have with her and
Well,
him.
just again, and you talk about the lower end supporting characters. Lauren P, fully developed. The video workers that worked around them didn't have many lines, but the way she established them allows everything that they say after that to have perfect authenticity and perfect resonance. As I said, each of the characters, especially the ones that were directly around his orbit, had a scene where they could be distinctive and put on their reel, and everybody would say, "Good Lord, that's great." Um, I'm thinking of the mother scene, of course, in the ultimate confrontation, but the smaller things that she did around it too were really, really interesting. They have when they're loading up the car, they have a scene where they, briefly he pecks her on the cheek, and that everything is forgiven, and he's kind of moving on, and the guy who played Matt, who is Percy Hynes White. I like to think I'm familiar with him. Do you know his anything else?
No, and I didn't look him up, and
Yeah,
that's
I
sort
should
of a
have.
failing on my
I could
part.
have clicked on the Wikipedia thing, but the point is, he was just how did he understand that so well? Because to me, the exposition of teenage boy emotions when you're best friends at 17, very, very complex, but at the same time, I got to move on or I got to do that. I'm not going to stick around to hear you say, "I love you" to me when you treat me like shit for, the last 6 months. I mean, that kind of dynamics going on.
Yeah, and you kind of
And
get
I
the
really
feeling,
like
not
that.
not to give too much
No,
away,
I
but
didn't
you get
like
the
it.
feeling that their story is, maybe on pause. It's not,
Hmm.
there's not a giant,
Interesting.
friendship breakup or anything like that.
Interesting.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
especially when he reads his yearbook thing.
Oh,
I thought that was just perfect. Ah, God, see, small things like that, making, emerging, and then creating this universe that you completely buy into. Wow, you don't see many movies like this, folks. Take the opportunity.
yeah. I mean, I don't know if there's like I mean, you can probably rent it or find it somewhere, but
Oh,
uh,
digital, all platforms, my friends. Three
I know,
ninety
but
nine. Take
listen,
it in.
that's not good enough, Pat. Because I went to high school in the Kevin Smith era. I'm
Yeah.
an old school physical media guy. I want a Blu-ray with a commentary and a making of and all that stuff. I'm selfish. But I will say it's this movie again, this has no bearing on you or anybody watching this, but I felt very strange watching I Like Movies, because there are certain touch points where I related to Lawrence a little bit too much in terms of life experience. I
Interesting.
too spent most of my high school years living on a couch in a parent's 1-bedroom apartment, and they got the bedroom.
Dude,
I
I
too,
had no idea.
my father suffered the same fate as Lawrence's father. Yeah, and there's a couple other things where you just get this feeling where you want to pause the movie and look over your shoulder and be like, am I being punked? Pat, did you recommend this movie to me that was like a fake movie someone put out? They're reading my mind.
Oh my gosh. You know, it's interesting with the platforms these days because I have a relationship with a distributing manager for Freestyle Media, which got this whole thing going. And I asked him, well, did you discover it? And he goes, no, it was just, these sales agents at work. So underneath everything is this whole kind of machination of business. And it's called show business for a reason. And here they are, looking at, and what rises, the cream rises, man, Dinner in America. Uh, I Like Movies. The cream rises, and it's very encouraging when you're in the field of film analysis or criticism or whatever you want to call it, to discover these things, and it really warms the heart, because there's so much dreck out there, and there's so much clawing and scratching to get any kind of attention. Make a goddamn good movie. That's the best way to get attention.
Well, but I mean, that's the thing, is like there's attention. We're in the attention economy, essentially, and there's so much content out there that it's very easy for us to miss these things. I mean, we both talked about
very easy.
Dinner.
Very easy.
We talked about Dinner in America. We each interviewed the filmmakers in the last couple of weeks, and there's a blockbuster screening at the Music Box last week, completely sold out.
Two
The
shows
cast
on a Monday night.
On a Monday night, and the filmmakers. This speaks to that kind of grassroots energy. The filmmakers, including Kyle Gallner, is a major star. They stayed until 3:30 in the morning, meeting fans, signing things, taking pictures, exchanging kind of the love. And there's a 7 o'clock and a 9 o'clock show, and I kind of had to bail because I had to get up for work the next morning. But there were still people waiting in line from the 7 o'clock Q&A, and they stayed to make sure everybody got a handshake. The point is that same kind of, again, grassroots energy, that devotion. I feel like the special movies, like you say, the cream rises at the top. You need to find a way for all of these kind of deeply personal films to penetrate the zeitgeist. I mean, I would trade, and I haven't seen it yet, so this is unfair, but I would trade 100, Captain America 4s for just these two movies in particular to get that kind of, national attention and exposure. And they came out a few years ago. So, and, movies got really strange in the last couple of years with the pandemic and streaming and all these other kind of problems.
Right.
But you could just get like one national push again to get these in front of people.
Right.
I think they could, the filmmakers and all the people involved could get the accolades that they so richly deserve.
Yeah. What is it going to be like 10 years from now? That's where I see where it's going. And there's some, grumpy old men who complain about how that goes to streaming so fast now. And there used to be a 6-month window and blah, 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 blah.
Stop making fun of me, Pat.
No, but I always just think, man, show business. They're all scared. Nobody knows what's happening. Bill, who's the distribution manager, Freestyle, doesn't know. He said the whole effing LA town does not know what is going to happen. And the thing that I think that filmmakers are going to have to get used to, it's going to become a middle class industry. It's going to be an industry where you're not going to make the millions and millions of dollars, but you can make a living if you make good films. And I think that's the hardest transition to make, obviously, because if you're used to, or if you're used to seeing the glamorous lifestyle of somebody who makes it, and you're in that mix to make it, and once you make it, you suddenly realize, well, maybe you can make about 60K a year. It's like, I can't even afford an apartment in LA for that.
Well,
So
I mean,
anyway.
but to that point, and I certainly don't want to see anybody, suffer or lose their livelihoods or anything like that.
No.
But, there has been that discussion for at least the last 10 years about how there's no such thing as the mid-budget movie anymore. It's either small indies or $250 million movies.
Right.
So maybe this is part of that leveling. I mean, if the thing about I like movies is I didn't recognize anybody from this cast. I kind of had that sensation of like, have I seen this person? But no, that's not
Right.
them. But I wondered why I haven't seen them. Maybe it's because it's a Canadian production. Maybe they're huge stars up north, and I just don't know. But again, the actress who played Alana, the store manager, Romina D'Ugo, she's phenomenal. I mean, more than even so Lawrence, who's played by Isaiah Lehtinen. I think she's really the breakout star of this movie, and I would love to see her in more things.
The only, I would say, small, because I did give it a 5 out of 5. It moved me in a way that perfection.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't really track with her at the end of the film. I feel like there was a lot of turning points there that we weren't seeing, and then they meet in the diner, and again, no spoilers, but and so that's a small complaint, but I totally agree with you, especially the scene where she was kind of in a setting in a stage where she had to tell her story, just knocked it out of the park. I was so interesting. There were so many interesting things. Like she was really talking about some Me Too stuff, like you said, with the future knowledge of what occurred. The mother comes home at one point and talks about some remark that somebody had made at the office to her. And before, you don't really even notice her as a woman, I guess. She's the kid's mother, and you're not kind of like any kind of size up. But as soon as she said that, boom, she became a vulnerable person in a crappy world yet again. And you notice that she is, that type of attractive person that would get a remark like she expressed. So little things like that just complete a cycle of understanding that we're getting in this remarkable film.
Regarding that last scene in the diner, and again, I won't spoil anything either, but going back to a word that I used earlier, not to pat myself on the back, but no, talking about Lawrence and Matt's friendship at the end sort of being on a pause, potentially. I feel like that's kind of where Alana might be as well, because she does finally go through this change, but I don't know that we're necessarily meant to think that that's her final destination. Not to do with the horror franchise, but just an idea that she's doing something different than what she'd been doing the rest of the film.
And she's
it's not the greatest thing for her necessarily, but at least it's change.
Right. And it came with that character. They arced at the same time, and they went in another way at the same time. So, another remarkable thing about that scene, or actually related to it, was that he had a habit of, I guess, scratching his back head, and
pulling out his hair. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So the mother gave him a crew cut, basically, cut close to the skin, and suddenly he aged from 17 to freshman in college. It was a way to age him that created that transition. And I was like, again, very remarkable. They noticed if they shave his hair off, that he looks older. How was that an accident? but maybe he said to them, when my head's close to when I'm shaved close, I look a lot older. Well, let's wait till the end of the picture to do that, so we can show it in transition. Beautiful.
I don't think there are any accidents in this movie.
No, I don't think so either. You're absolutely right. Now, did you ever figure out who Tabitha was?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes, because I wrote down the name in the notes, and I didn't have those at my disposal when you asked earlier.
Okay.
I won't. Again, I'm trying to not spoil
Oh my God,
a lot about this movie.
Okay,
It's
right.
it's not really. It's a character that Lawrence meets at the very end of the film, and she shows up, and her character is into horticulture.
Okay. Say no more.
But here's the thing. I'm talking about there are no accidents. There's a part of me that goes back to the audio commentary for Jason Goes to Hell, The Final Friday, where the director of that movie was talking about, because when he made that movie, he was like 22 years old or 23,
Wow.
and he was working under the tutelage of Sean Cunningham, who kind of started the whole Jason franchise.
Okay.
And when this kid would come up with ideas, Sean Cunningham would yell at him, go, film school. Like, these are cheesy ideas that come up in the film school but don't work in the real world because they're cheesy. Tabitha, who's into horticulture, is wearing a green shirt.
Okay.
And just the idea of, plant body, that kind of thing. And I immediately thought that is very clever. And they don't make a big thing out of it. It's just kind of an if you know kind of a deal.
Well, also to back to your point about his relationships not being over, right? Matt, Alana's a former actress. Matt, of course, is moving to his own realm. We don't know where he's going, but he's planting the seeds of where he's going, correct? So when you say their relationships are not over, that we could possibly be seeing his Kevin Smith cast of characters in the future, that he uses in his movies all the time, if everything works out the way it should. Or doesn't work out the way it should. You know what I'm saying? It really is a tantalizing little piece of information to say these relationships are not over.
Well, it's also, again, going back to the Clerks thing. I think, aside from the donkey show scene, I think Clerks 2 is one of the rare perfect sequels. It's you catch up with these characters, I think 10 or 12 years after the original film, and you see where they are in their lives. Pardon me, I got something caught in my throat. And it's not tears, but
it's my emotions.
Right. They're no longer like college rejects. They're, adults, but they're still stuck working in retail. And what does that mean for their lives? And I think the ending of that movie is one of the most beautiful endings to a film that I've ever seen. Dante and Randall.
I know what you're referring to. It's been a while since I've seen that.
Right, but essentially Dante and Randall at the end of that movie end up working at the Quick Stop, but it's because they've bought the Quick Stop. Right. They're finally taking control of their own destiny. So I feel like if this movie were to, if we have I Still Like Movies would come out like 7 years from now.
I love to see that. I love to see that, really.
Right. You catch up with these characters, and I feel like you could have just as vibrant a story about where these people are as adults as you would have when they're teenagers.
Well, speaking of parallel universes that work within the film context, besides Clerks, there's a reference to Steel Magnolias. Now, people, have various opinions on that film. I happen to like it.
I've not seen it. I never saw it.
Oh my God, you're in for a treat. So anyway, whether you hate it or like it, you're in for a treat. That's the amazing part of Steel Magnolias. But that reference, which came, I cracked up hard when that reference came up, and that he had never seen it. Well, there you go. You're paralleling the movie. But the universe of the Steel Magnolias, there's several parallels within I Like Movies. Weirdly enough. And
damn it! Now I got to go watch that. It sounds like another giant in joke that I want to know why it's so funny.
It is. It was just and perfectly set up. Timing was perfect, everything, and then the epilogue to that conversation was perfect. I don't know. It just
Well,
you picked up on the green shirt. I was like, whoa. And interestingly enough, in that scene, and again, no spoilers, but we all have intense interests when we're younger, and we all gravitate. My thing was trivia. I love trivia, blah 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 blah, which helped me move into other directions. But the point being is that you can't just keep going to that same well and expect it to taste good after the 2000s drink from it. You do need other sources of refreshment. You whether if you live a life of the mind, for example, as we both do, you have to spread your wings a bit, whether it's in your relationships or in your interests, and really that's kind of the thing with Lawrence. He's stuck doing this. He's doing the same thing over and over. And what's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. So, in transitioning, we can do something different, and then we do get a different result. So,
yeah, and even that even applies to his interest in film, because
right.
Steel Magnolias comes up in a conversation towards the end, and you wonder how he's going to react to that conversation, because he probably never saw it for the same reason I never saw it. It came out when I was like 11. It's a movie about a bunch of ladies, and one of them has cancer or something. They're all from the South. I don't know. There were no guns or explosions to my knowledge, so I skipped it. I'm much more receptive now that I'm older and into more types of films. But the fact that the reason he takes that movie seriously enough to consider is because of the person who recommends it to him. And not only that, but we see him put up a poster of it later on in the film, which not only says he watched it, but it's not really a spoiler, because I don't say where that poster is or what it means. Damn it. You almost got me.
Well, notice I didn't mention it when I was talking my Steel Magnolias hunk. But it's fine.
There's only so many landmines.
You'll still be surprised.
But no, what I'm saying is what that means, that he would.
Right.
It's not that he watched it and liked it and remembered it. That could come up in a line of dialogue. We see him put up a poster of it, which implies all of that, but also says so much more, in that he liked it and loved it enough to put up a poster as a testament to his appreciation for the movie. Maybe that opened his mind to other kinds of so-called chick flicks or movies that aren't from Steven Soderbergh or Paul Thomas Anderson, and also as sort of a memorial to the relationship with the person who recommended the movie to him.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, and really, that's what the movies are in a sense. That a lot of times we do associate the movies with people that we've seen them with or interacted with. Or, I mean, forever I'll associate this film with my friend Bill, because he was the one that got it into the stream, and Dinner in America. Just the fact that we have Music Box here and they do things like this. I mean, how lucky are we to have that opportunity to, discover with other people this type of organic fandom that has arisen. They were like the Beatles, for God's sake. I'm sitting there talking to the Emily Skeggs, and she goes, "Oh, I got to get over here and do this." I said, "Your people await, my friend. Brilliant. Go." And I just faded away. It was crazy. Crazy. Now, did you see the Smile movies? Is Kyle essential in that one? I mean, he's like a supporting.
I didn't see them.
Okay.
I know he was. I think he was the main one of the main characters in the first one, and he's in the second one for, from what I understand, all of 2 minutes.
Okay. All right.
But yeah, um,
He's also in a really, really well received cult film where he plays a demon. I can't think of the name of it.
mm.
Forget it. Move on.
Well, I've been a fan of his
Oh,
since Veronica Mars, I think,
yes,
20
yeah.
years ago. But
Well, he's been doing it for 25 years. He looks like he's 28. He said, "Oh, you had to remind me of that when I asked the question." I go, "Dude, you look like you're 28. Don't worry about it."
well, I was go ahead.
Oh, I just want to bring up one thing. Now, I know you're a literary fan. Have you read A Confederacy of Dunces?
No, I remember they turned that into a movie. I think was that with Sean
No,
Penn or something? Or is that
it's not
no?
been turned into a movie yet.
What
It's
am
one
I
of those
thinking of?
unfilmable novels. But the point is,
Hmm.
just to give like a 3-sentence summary, it is a book that was discovered after the author committed suicide. His mother brought it into a literature professor at the university in New Orleans, Tulane maybe. But the guy, an unsolicited manuscript, he starts reading it and he's like, oh my God. So it's a cult novel. It's a cult novel, a piece of American literature that is in the canon. The main character is Ignatius P. Riley, and he wears a hunter's cap. And frickin' Lawrence was wearing a hunter's cap, and he has the same sort of begrudged personality as Ignatius. Ignatius loves movies. Ignatius is always talking about movies. Nobody understands Ignatius's love of movies except Ignatius. And I was like, isn't that just perfect? Really, isn't that just perfect? To make a background reference to an amazing literary piece of work, and just have it subtle enough that those of us who've read it can pick it up.
Well, I'm going to
I
put that
don't
on my
know if
list.
that's true, but that's what happened to me.
Here's what we're gonna do. I'm
Yes.
inviting Chandler Levack on the show. If you're watching this, please come on. We'll talk to you about this
Oh
because
God,
even just
we
talking
can
about the
arrange that.
well, just talking about the intense understanding of people, no matter the age, talking about the references from Steel Magnolias to a Confederacy of Dunces,
Yeah,
whether or
yeah,
not she spent 10 years like finally crafting this, or if it was
right,
all just the ingredients in her mind that came out in
right,
this stew and she's writing characters,
right.
and directing them and finding the perfect right people to play every role in this film. I mean, it just speaks to, again, I think what we are hungering for in the art of cinema today, because there's a lot of garbage out there. Every
Right.
movie is personal to somebody on some level, but when you can come away from a film like this and just really feel it and feel like you're, to, as the kids say, to be seen, just as a human being,
Right.
I think it's a rare and beautiful thing, and that's what this movie is.
Well, and just to piggyback on that summary is that I think this is a universal film. I think anybody who doesn't matter if you know the reference to Confederacy of Dunces
I
or
didn't.
Steel Magnolias
Right.
or anything or Kevin Smith or whatever we've referenced in this nerd podcast, we're going to. I'm a nerd, not you.
I'm a nerd too, dude.
All
Well,
right,
no,
nerd podcast. Then.
no, I'm a
Uh,
geek. I wasn't smart enough to be a nerd in school.
you're
Didn't
smart.
have the grades.
I don't think the nerd geek debate, whatever. But the point is, it's universal, especially if anybody had a relationship in high school with a very special person and you guys drifted apart because that's how life is. I mean, the whole thing about the placeholder friend that Lawrence referred to Matt as a placeholder friend, which was intensely cruel, and yet he didn't care. He was authentic. Everything was on the table, and essentially that's why he was a social outcast. But also that's what Matt liked about him until it got personal. And Hey,
Well,
man, we've all had that relationship. All of us. All of us. So this is a universal film. That's my conclusion. Everybody should see it. Go put the $4 down and bring it up on your digital tube tonight.
and to the people who are responsible for the home video distribution or whatever, I understand physical media is pricey to produce, but damn it, put this out so I can put it on my shelf. Streaming schmeeming. No. Anyway,
I'm so anti-possession now that streaming is a perfect thing right now for me. So I don't want anything on the shelf anymore, my friend, except
well,
my youth, which is
what?
Let's.
I don't know what to do with that. Anyway,
well, I think next we're going to be doing our Easter film, right?
oh my gosh,
If
yes.
we can have like a goal for the next setting. We haven't even had Mardi Gras yet. What is that? Last week of February?
Probably.
Anyway, I figure as time rolls on, that would probably be the best next one.
Yes. And we'll
preview
figure
for
out
everybody when I'll be back.
Oh, and I got to say, speaking
Yeah.
of which, and I got to run in a couple minutes, but
No worries.
our was it Executive Action, the Kennedy conspiracy movie we talked about a couple years ago?
Mhm.
I've gotten more comments recently on that video than like anything else. Like,
I'm gonna have to go
keeps
read.
popping up. Well, some of you don't want to, but it's just wow. It's
Are
just
they
it's strange.
insulting my big nose finally?
No. I don't know
under
what's
that
going
hat.
on. I'm doing another version of don't read the comments coming up soon. I think like half of them are going to be about that damn video. But
Great.
anyway, keep them coming, everybody.
It's so easy to be anonymous these days, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm appalled at what some people will say on comments that you wouldn't say to somebody's face. Make that a rule of thumb, folks. If you're not going to say it to somebody's face, don't fricking write it down underneath a random YouTube video, for God's sake.
Yes, those specific parameters. Because if you're talking about don't say things online that you wouldn't say to someone's face, I'd have to shut down this channel. But never let it be said that I am brave. Anyway,
God.
Pat McDonald, HollywoodChicago.com. Thank you very much for turning me on to this movie and for talking to me about it.
Lucky. We both got lucky, dude.
Seriously. Yeah. So what do you have to promote? What's coming up? What do you got?
What do I have to promote? I will be in Slam Dance, the Slam Dance Festival next week. Their first LA. Toe luck.
Wow.
I'm going there, and that will be my big. I have two big away games this year. One is Slam Dance. Not going to South by Southwest this year, and and we'll be going to the Dallas International Film Festival in August, and then of course I'll be working with the Asian Pop-Up Cinema, which is going to be a competitive film festival now for the first time in its 10-year span. The great Sophia Wong Boshio, who founded that festival, she will be bringing in all the Asian stars. That starts in early March. You can look it up on asianpopup.org. And
you don't even have to go that far. I'm gonna put that information down below.
Excellent,
Right.
sir. Give the whole range there, because I'll be doing some moderation and talking to all the filmmakers coming in. So yeah, that's pretty much my plug-olas. And great to be on the show again. 2025. How long have we been doing this? How long have I made appearances on this fine, brilliant podcast, Kicking the Seat?
Has it been 10 years?
I think it is 10 years, sir.
Wow. I'm gonna have to look that up, and we'll have to toast some champagne. But also, before we go, Pat, and I promise to let you go because I got to run. But I want you to start your own podcast about your adventures in hosting Q&As over the years. And here's what you call it: all things in moderation. with Pat McDonald.
You're such a son of a bitch. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
I might do that. I actually do have an idea. My nephew is named Michael Ritchie. And of course, the great, we talked about Smile on this very show.
Mm-hmm.
And
not the Smile we talked about a couple minutes ago, different
one. Right. And Bad News Bears we talked about in this show too. So 2 Michael Ritchie films. And did we talk about the Redford? No, anyway. What we're going to do, Michael Ritchie on Michael Ritchie. We're going to go, he's never seen any of the films. So what we'll do is I'll guide him through all, I believe, 24 films. It would be a 24-part series called Michael Ritchie on Michael Ritchie. So we'll see how it goes. He's kind of skeptical about it, but he's, 26 and feeling his oats. It's difficult for somebody to pin somebody down and have them analyze old movies.
Hey, I am proof positive because me and my buddy Cole, we have done the page to screen and late screening and all that. And we started when he was, I think, 22, 23, and turning him on to movies that are several decades old before he was even born. And big fan of the classics. So good luck. Let me know when that comes out, and I will promote the hell out of it, sir. But I gotta go. Thank you very much, Pat McDonald. And until next time, folks, please follow Pat. Follow me. If you like this content, please like, subscribe, and all that business. Until next time, whenever that is, whatever that is, thank you and take care.
Blessings all.
Hey, everyone. Ian here. I know, long time no see. But if you like the video you just watched, feel free to subscribe to Kicking the Seat right here. And also check out the playlist and recommended video right here. Thanks for watching.